I see Sherry up front. I see Marlon on the outside. I see Althea on the inside. Rudolph Clark. Joseph Riley. All of my people. I love you. Good evening. I heard I only got 15 minutes and I vexed. Because I can't come to St. Joseph and speak for 15 minutes. But nonetheless, I have to be obedient to my leader, who is doing a wonderful and tremendous job with us. I want to ask you a simple question. Did you listen to Parliament this week, the debate? You recognize the wonderful job that the Barbados Labour Party did? You recognize the leadership that was displayed. Mayor Amor Mortley spoke for 20 minutes and then she gave way to her team. You call that leadership to the highest order. But having said that, people, I went through the week whereby the estimate was an exercise in futility. It was an exercise in political skullduggery. And the reason why I say that, because I am in St. Joseph and this is rural Barbados. And when we searched the estimates, we saw nothing whatsoever to benefit the agricultural sector or the farmers in St. Joseph. Isn't that an exercise in futility? But we have a man in St. Joseph by the name of Professor, that's his name, who walking around giving out seedlings to people. When we have an abundance of land in St. Joseph that people can work, that this government has failed to put any plan in place so that the farmers can benefit. And we have the Scotland District, 1/5 of the land mass of this country. And most of the Scotland District is owned by private farmers. And those private farmers have said to the government, I will give you the land, well, not for free. We can form a partnership whereby you can utilize my land to grow mahogany trees. So when you grow mahogany trees in the Scotland District, that helps the local industry. That helps the manufacturers, those persons who are down by BIDC, those guys who are manufacturing, but yet this government has done nothing about it. So we consider the estimates an exercise in futility and political skullduggery because they brought the estimates for the first time in February. And Parliament will be dissolved on the 5th or 6th of March, Dale. I ain't got the right date, either the 5th or the 6th. But this give the government all the leverage to go and do as they please. But I say to them, the Lord ain't sleeping. You can do what you want to do for a time, but you can't do it all the time. The day of reckoning is coming. So when I come to St. Joseph, I have to speak about agriculture. And I want you to know that this government has done nothing for the farmers in rural Barbados because they probably see rural Barbados as belonging to the Barbados Labour Party. And I want you, rural Barbados, to continue supporting the Barbados Labour Party. But they went a bit further and they introduced something called a Barbados Sustainable Recovery Plan 2018. My mom and dad up front. Stand and let the people see you, man. 80s and 70s. I love them. My parents, man. I didn't see them there. And the rest from St. George South. I love you all too, but you know the parents are special. This plan, Barbados Sustainable Recovery Plan. And I said to Chris Sinclair, you had 5 or 6 plans. I think Dale said 5. I said 6, Dale. I got on one, no problem. And you did nothing for the people of Barbados. Now you come at the last minute on the eve of an election. And because you want to tell me that the social partners and the social partnership was part of this plan, you think it's going to give the people of this country hope. Has it given you any hope? Has it given you any hope? Has it given you any hope? Thank you. So I think Chris Tinkler should take this plan, put some ketchup and pepper on it with some cheese and eat it. This plan is making mock sport at the electorate. And I'm going to speak to them. I want more than 15 minutes, man. Cynthia, begging you. I have a lot to talk in St. Joseph tonight. Give me 20. Give me 5 more, please. Glenn Clark took my time. I love him, though. A good politician. But when you look at this plan, a statement by the Barbados Private Sector Association, you know, the social partnership agreed to this plan. I have no difficulty with the plan. I can tell you where my difficulty lies. And you're going to agree with me. It said, and I think Ronald Toppin, the member for St. Michael North, spoke to this. I see some of his people there watching me, Mr. Kelman. Ronald referenced this document in his speech, the statement by the Barbados Private Sector Association. And one aspect said, while we acknowledge, this is what the Private Sector Association is saying to the government, while we acknowledge the broad consensus on the objectives set out in this document, we recognize that implementation plans, which are critical to the success of the objectives, are still to be developed. They recognize that the implementation plans that are critical to the success of this recovery plan are still to be developed. Now, after you have carved out your vision for this country, and you have carved out your strategy for this country, and you have plotted your outcomes, how are we going to put money back in your pocket? How are we going to begin to export? How are we going to reduce? How are we going to improve our foreign reserves? You know what? What is missing after you have carved out that? Because all of us carved out these plans, both BD and NDP. Don't let me say much about the NDP. Because the NDP is the Democratic Labour arm of the DLP. And what they're going to do, I am speaking to them just to put them aside. They have no philosophical grounding by which they form a political party. Their aim is to stop the Barbados Labour Party on its mission of recovering and retaining the seat and bringing Barbados back to some respectability. But they cannot stop us. But having carved out your vision and your strategy, so forget the UPP and them other parties. Having carved out your vision and your strategy and plotted your outcomes, you know what is missing? And the private sector mentioned it, implementation. I call it leading in execution. I call it leading in execution because don't matter what Chris Sinclair has done, and he insulted us, and I want 5 good minutes to deal with him at the end, you know. He insulted us at the end in his wrap-up in the debate because I like to differentiate and let the Barbados Labour Party know what distinguishes the Barbados Labour Party from the Democratic Labour Party. And we have to continue to preach what distinguishes us. But when you have forgotten the whole leading by execution, how will you implement or achieve your outcomes? Don't care how much manifesto you produce. Don't care how much strategy, Mr. Bowen, you produce. Don't care how much outcomes you plot and you don't implement. And I call it leading in execution. You have failed the country. And that is what the Democratic Labour Party has failed in. They have failed in the execution of their manifesto pledges to the people of this country. And when you examine every aspect of leadership, the Democratic Labour Party, they behave as if every day is election. They behave so with all these empty exhortation and these fancy speeches as opposed to getting down to the business of the day, which is running the ministries. They continue with these empty mouthings and these fancy speeches like Chris Sinclair, but behind him is an empty vessel. And what do they say about empty vessels? What do they say about empty vessels? Don't be fooled by Chris Sinclair because they are lacking in leading the execution, what we call the implementation deficit. And I'm going to challenge them tonight because Chris Sinclair got into Parliament and tried to criticize and embarrass the young members of Parliament. And I'm going to tell you why we are the party of choice as opposed to the Democratic Labour Party. The Democratic Labour Party, and he compares Michael Lashley to me. Oh my God. What do you think there's a comparison between Michael Lashley and I? You really believe there's a comparison between Michael Lashley and I? Oh my God. I don't what? I'm an honest man and a man of integrity. But my reality is these ministers have failed this country. They have failed you. They have come to govern without any managerial experience. Not one of them. And that is how we distinguish ourselves as a political party. And hats off to Mayor Amor Motley. Give her a clap for that. That is how we distinguish ourselves from the Democratic Labour Party. And I can tell you why. You heard tonight Colin Jordan, a man with immense managerial experience in accounting, economics, and in the tourism sector. He came to the fore. You heard tonight from Charles Griffith, a man from St. John who managed Project Oasis and did it successfully with managerial experience. You heard tonight from a development economist, Marsha Kettle, a lady of immense talent that I love. That is talent. She represented CDB across the world. They sent her to manage projects. You heard tonight from Glenn Clark, a teacher with tremendous experience in government. And you heard tonight from the lady, in my opinion, who delivered the best speech in Parliament last week, Miss Cynthia Ford. You heard from that lady with immense experience in education and in governance. What is different to the Democratic Labour Party? And you hear from me. And I don't like to talk about myself. I have a track record in the private sector, in management. Tremendous track record. Michael Lashley ever led anything yet? All Michael Lashley interested in is buying vehicles, SUVs, and he didn't realize that SUVs depreciate. That makes sense to you? He got about 15 SUVs. This is a man who runs a very important ministry without any managerial experience. And I come to you this way because I want you to know that the Democratic Labour Party, they have not led in execution in this country because they have no experience to lead in execution. And I'm looking for you like, it didn't start yet. So we have to understand that we as a political party, we are blessed. And I want you to clap for that. We are blessed. We had 14 successful years of running this country. We had 14 successful years of running this country. And more than 1/3 of this present team were part of that government. And they will form the next government under Mayor Amor Motley. So when I hear Chris Sickler come to embarrass us or try to embarrass us, Neil Rowe is in the house. I want Neil on this platform. Where Neil Rowe is? Neil Rowe. Where's Neil? I want you to understand that Chris Sinclair is a big bluffer. Chris Sinclair runs the Ministry of Finance without any experience in the area of finance. This is our brother. Come, man. Come. I am a new MP, relatively new, but Mayor keeps saying I'm experienced, and I thank her for that. I probably displaying it. Thank you, Mommy and Daddy, for giving me the exposure from early. Neil Rowe, the first time I ran in St. George South, and I have never called my opponent's name. Let's go to Parliament and call my opponent's name. Christopher Sinclair, or Chris, what's his name? Bad Boy? You call it Bad Boy? Let's stay as Bad Boy. Christopher Sinclair, in his wrap-up speech in the estimates, called Neil Rowe's name. You heard the story about David and Goliath? This young man will teach Chris Sinclair some humility. This young man has Chris Sinclair putting a half-page ad in the newspaper to clean up his constituency, St. Michael Northwest. I have never put an ad, neither Dale Marshall, and we discuss it, an ad in any paper against our opponent to show that we are cleaning up our constituency. He is under extreme pressure, and I want you to give this man a hand. This young man has Chris Sinkler under pressure. He called his name in Parliament. Neil started the journey of identifying some challenges with an elderly lady. That is why talking about the social services. We have people like Trevor Prescott. Neil has just joined the fore. Arthur Holder, who are competent in the area of managing the social services and dealing with the elderly people in this country. And Neil went to the rescue of an old lady in St. Michael Northwest. And after Neil did that, Chris Sinkler decided he gonna clean up St. Michael Northwest. Well, tell he that Dale Marshall, George Payne, Dwight Sutherland, Mia Morley, Cynthia Ford, all we down in St. Michael Northwest weekly, we can deal with him. I thank you, Neil. Keep the good work up. That's the man. Don't think that we have a Pupa team and a Paku team, as the boys will tell you. This is a Paku BLP. This is a team that can rescue you. This is a serious team, a dynamic team. Let me tell you about the team. Let me tell you about the team. This team has a doctor in it. This team has an engineer in it. This team has entrepreneurs in it. Sandra husband in Darwin. I call the social services man. And John is social service. John is social service. Help me call him. Help me call him. Help me call him. Stand up, man. Stand up, man. God of mercy. My horse. Come to the stage, man. Come to the stage. Come to the stage, Kirk. This is my horse. I ride in this horse. I ride in this horse. This man, this young man, like Marsha, we have potential leaders in the Barbados Labour Party. This man will unseat Frondell's throat. He will keep Frondell's throat at home, just like Neil will keep Chris at home. And we will continue to support him. Thank you, my friend. I ain't worried. I get met when I'm proud in St. George South, man. I ain't worried. My aim is to make sure we won 14 seats in the last election, and I cry. I ain't crying no more, because when I see the talent may unfolded to me, I said, we are blessed. We are blessed. How much more time I got? How much more time I got, Sainty man? 10 minutes. Give me 10 minutes. I am happy for the 10 minutes. I want to deal with two issues, because Chris Sinkler got me angry. I want to challenge him, because he has no managerial competence, and he is running a ministry. He's presiding over the decay of this country. That's what he's doing. But I want to deal with two issues that are dear to me. One relates to transport and work, and the next one relates to education. I will leave the education for last, because it touched on my good friend who has helped me, and I will speak to him last, Dale Marshall. But when you compare me to Michael Lashley, it upset me. It got me angry. I vexed. Michael Lashley never managed nothing before. But did you read today's Sunday Sun? On a serious note, did you read it? Did you see that the Ministry of Transport and Works, they are using the coaches to carry the children to school? Only yesterday, I spoke to an elderly lady. Thanks to Costella's husband. Is she here? Costella is here. I like to recognize my team members when they call me to address issues. Costella is one of my box captains on the southern side of St. George, Cox Road in St. David's, and that side coming up by Edie Village. An elderly lady told me yesterday, she said, Mr. Sutherland, sorry, she called me Dwight. Just call me Dwight. She said, Dwight, I was told that I will have to pay a bus fare simply because no more transport board buses will be running to Edie Village or Cox Road. This is what the lady told me. I said to her, Mums, I don't know, but I ain't doubt it. I will research the issue for you, and I will get back to you shortly. And today, we saw in the paper the whole mention of the coaches and also the duty-free concessions to the PSV vehicles, right? And he also said that the PSV vehicles or owners supposed to get back to him too on a plan. These are the same people in the last election put a lady on the bus. These are the same Democratic Labour Party politics by political skullduggery and deceit. These are the same people who put a lady on the bus and said to you, the people of this country, don't vote for the Barbados Labour Party, because when they get in, they will privatize transport board and the pensioners will have to pay a bus fare. That is what was said by the old lady, Miss Mack. I know her good. Her children went to school with me. I feel for Miss Mack. I feel for her. Even her children feel for her. But nonetheless, let me leave her. Everybody can't support me, but we can win. We are winners. I want Michael Lashley, don't see Michael Lashley, to tell the people of this country what the Democratic Labour Party is doing with Transport Board. I want Michael Lashley to tell you, they are quietly politics by deceit. They have played with the Barbadian populace. They have played with you. They have no moral authority to come back to you to ask you for the vote from their throat, because that is one of the things he said that we would do and that he wouldn't do, privatize the transport board. He set up in St. George in a joint canvass in January 2012. He said that they will not allow students to pay tuition fees. And thirdly, he said they won't send home the public servants. Isn't that politics by deceit, political skullduggery? And you going to vote for he? You going to vote for he? What won't do it to front that short? We have to deal with front that short. Front that short has quietly presided over the decay of Barbados. Front that short has quietly caused sufferation among the people of this country. Front that short has quietly destroyed the middle class of this country. And front that short has made the poor people poorer in this country. And he sits down in Parliament as if he's some paragon of piety, and he's speaking Latin as if Latin can lead the execution of Barbados and can revive Barbados. Latin cannot revive Barbados. Leading in the execution can revive Barbados and put Barbados back to respectability. And that is what Mayor Amon Motley has done. She has gone into the trenches. And when I say leading in the execution, I don't mean micromanaging or disempowering people or being hands-on, but she has gone into the trenches and she has found out what is critical to the poor people of this country. She has dealt with the business sector to find out what will bring some respectability, what will bring people back into employment. She has dealt with the middle class people to find out what are the critical issues that will return their level of middle class to some respectability. She has also dealt with the investors who are critical, who are hiding from the Democratic Labour Party because they say they ain't putting the money in a place that they ain't getting the returns or they ain't sure about, so they ain't putting the money in it. And that is what Mayor Motley has skillfully done. I want you to give her a round of applause, man. I am empowered because of my leader as well. She has given me the opportunity to work with her and go around in areas to bring my skill and my competence in engineering and my managerial competence, just like she has done with Kirk, Neil, and all the others. And that is the leader for the times. And I want you to support Mayor Amor Motley. Now, I can't come to St. Joseph and don't speak about my good friend who has been responsible partly for my success. This is a man who toured St. George day and night. This is a man, when the pundit said I was losing, and I called him at 2 o'clock one morning, he said, I want to hear you play 9 years, you winning, stop calling me. This is a man whose shoulders I relied on. And why I called St. Joseph people tonight, the Joseph Riley and those guys, they came to St. George to help me canvass. They taught me a lot about canvassing, and I want to recognize the people from St. Joseph. I love them for helping out the people in St. George. I was inexperienced, and thanks to people like Dale Marshall and George Payne, I now feel that I found my way, and I can contribute to the development of this country. But I want to deal with an issue though. This is the final issue, the light on. I gotta finish now. I am an obedient MP. You know who is the chairman of Bradley Adams? Professor, the DLP candidate that they're going to lick up again. You know he get $1,200 a month for being the chairman of this board. That is not all though, you know. You know the professor has employed as a consultant in the Ministry of Education. You all know what he does, what his title is? A coming out sainty. The function of the consultant to conduct appropriate surveys and to ascertain the degree and the extent and the reasons for deviance among students. This man is being paid $89,000 a year as a consultant in the Ministry of Education to come up with a paper on deviance in schools. And he's the chairman of this school where we are seeing most of the challenges. I come in, Sainty, I come in. This is one night I can come here. But he also has the responsibility to develop and implement a statistical format to capture all relevant information on deviant behavior, inclusive of bullying, fighting, suspension, and expulsion, etc. You can imagine this man was employed since 2013, and he's working as a consultant in the Ministry of Education. And he's responsible for implementing a strategy on deviant behavior in school. But yet, he's the chairman of this school. And what is happening with this school? The Democratic Labour Party is feathering their own nest for the past 10 years. But I want to wrap up by telling you, the St. Joseph people and the people of Barbados, you can't vote for Professor, and I know you ain't going to vote for him. You have to give Dale Marshall, tried, tested, and proven, one of the best talents in the Barbados Labour Party. When we were going through our issues with crime, he was Attorney General and he rescued Barbados. An attorney at law, international business minister, and also former Attorney General. He is a member of the team, a very senior member. I want to thank you tonight for listening to me. I want you to have the courage to vote the Democratic Labour Party out. And I leave you with the prayer, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Courage to change the things I can. And you have the wisdom and you know the difference. I love you.